Good afternoon and welcome to a weekly review session with the Market Trader. My name is Ray, the Market Trader, and before we get started, we'll need to run through our obligatory risk disclosure and just to remind everyone that the content that's being published and distributed by the Market Trader is to be treated as general information only. None of the information provided by the company or contained herein is intended as investment advice and offer to buy, sell, recommend, endorse, sponsor any security, company, or fund. Use of this information contained herein is to be used at your own risk, and the company, its partners, representatives, agents, and employees and contractors assume no responsibility or liability for any use or misuse of such information. Future trading does carry a fair amount of risk. It's not for every investor. An investor could potentially lose all or more of their investment capital. Only risk capital money that can be lost without jeopardizing one's financial security or lifestyle should be used for trading, and only those individuals with sufficient risk capital should consider trading. Again, nothing contained herein is a solicitation or an offer to buy, sell futures, options, or forex, and past performance is not necessarily indicative of the week ahead. Week ahead is with respect to news that could potentially impact the markets. As you know, tomorrow is an abbreviated session as a result of honoring President's Day. So the markets will close at 2 p.m. Eastern time. So there's really nothing in the way of news that it appears to be reported tomorrow that could impact the markets. Taking a look at Tuesday, Tuesday also looks like a relatively light day. We have a couple of Fed members speaking here. We do have Fed manufacturing and some housing market index reporting here at 8:30 and 10 a.m. respectively. But I would say that Wednesday is probably the biggest, I guess, the biggest day of news. We have durable goods coming in at 8:30 a.m. We have U.S. industrial production month over month coming in at 9:15. And then we have some guidance with respect to interest rates with the FOMC meeting minutes coming in at 2 p.m. on Wednesday. Taking a look ahead at Thursday, we have the U.S. trade balance coming in at 8:30. We also have initial jobless claims coming in at 8:30. And then we have, for those crude oil traders, we have inventories coming in at what appears to be noon Eastern time. Okay, and we close out the week with some news that could impact the markets. We have PCE price index year over year, month over month. We have consumer spending coming in at 8:30 as well. We have GDP quarter over quarter coming in at 8:30. And then we close out the day of news with some information on PMI, both on the service and the manufacturing sector. And then we have some inflationary information for Michigan, and then potentially the Supreme Court's opinion on tariffs, okay, coming in at potentially at 10 a.m. The schedule appears to be somewhat tentative here, okay? So now that we've gotten through the risk disclosure and our news, we'll go ahead and turn our attention over to our portal, and we're just going to go ahead and take a look here at what news do we have in store that could has the potential of impacting the markets here. Okay, so I have a chart of the crude oil chart, not crude oil, sorry, uh, gold chart. Okay, so looking at the gold chart, we're going to start off with the monthly chart. And looking at the monthly chart, you can see that the market continues to show signs that it wants to continue higher. We had a little bit of a sell-off here at to close the month, but the candle still managed to close as a bullish candle, and we started out the new month with a buying wick, okay, and kind of maybe potentially beginning to kind of challenge the upside here, okay. So monthly chart still kind of indicating to us that there's still a fair amount of bullish price action. Okay, taking a look at the weekly chart, looking at the weekly, you see that maybe we are seeing a little bit more in the way of participation on both sides of the market here. We had a relatively strong bearish candle here to close out the week of January. And since then, we've been in some sort of range. Now, still remaining above our 9 EMA and all the other moving averages here, our 20, our 50, our 100 and 200. Okay, price remains above all those levels, indicating that we are still in a relatively strong bullish market. Okay. Taking a look at the DMI below us here, we can see that we have a reading of 63, which is quite high. A reading of 25 and above is considered strong. You see that the buying pressure has seemed to have waned here a bit on this chart, right? You can see that we have kind of flattened our buying pressure with the positive DI, and we seem to see a little bit of an increase here in our negative DI, indicating that maybe that there is some pressure that has begun to develop here in this market. Okay, so let's go ahead now and take a look at the daily chart. Looking at the daily chart, you can see that price has not been able or has not managed to make a new high. We are in somewhat of a bullish channel here at the moment, but for now it feels more like a retracement than a necessarily a impulsive move here to the upside, and that's kind of corroborated with what we're seeing with respect to the DMI here. We see our ADX kind of falling, okay, now below 25, which is generally considered strong, and you can see that our both our positive and our negative DI is also indicating relatively flat pressure on either direction. Okay, so and that's in line with what we're seeing with respect to price. Now let's go ahead and take a look at our fixed range volume profile to kind of over the course of the week here, and we'll kind of move our way here a little bit just to make sure that we got from start of Friday to Friday. Okay, we'll go back here, Friday to Friday. So you can see that price remains in range. Okay, so remains in this value range so that we are in some level of balance, and appears that we've opened the new week with also inside this range, which also indicates to us that we are in some sort of consolidation or balance of some sort here at the moment. Now, certainly there's a possibility here. Okay, again, I would say that maybe the market has maybe started to show that we've maybe entered maybe a change in sentiment from a market that's been quite bullish to a market that may be starting to turn bearish on us. Okay. And the reason I'm saying that is unless we can maybe make a new high here, and these levels that I'm pointing continue to be areas of resistance, then I would not rule out the possibility here that the market could potentially head lower. Now, if I take a measurement here, if I just go ahead and measure top to bottom of this move that we see on the daily chart and take that high that we've made so far, well, that would take us down to the 200 moving average that I have below. Okay, so that's certainly not out of the realm of possibility if we are going to continue this potential bearish or change in sentiment from a market that's been bullish to a market that's maybe starting to give us some signs that is turning a bit on the bearish side. Okay, so headed into the session or headed into the week, I would say that the market is probably in the midst of some sort of, I would say in range here at the moment. I would say that the market is probably more neutral to bearish here at the moment, unless obviously we are able to make a new high, at which point maybe we would need to reevaluate. But right now, it seems like we are still relatively in bearish control. Okay. And that merely what's taking place here is a little bit of a consolidation in the market for the possibility of maybe getting a move lower, possibly as low to the 200 moving average. Okay. And that would be considered more of a measured move here in this market. So headed into the session or headed into the week, I would say that the market is looking more neutral to bearish. Okay. Let's go ahead now and take a look at the silver market. Looking at the silver market, we'll go ahead and start off with the monthly chart. Okay, looking at the monthly chart, you can see that it looks like we got a little bit of a drop off here in our buying pressure with our positive DI kind of reversing here a little bit. We see a little bit of a spike in selling pressure, right? Still relatively low in comparison to where our buying is. We did rebound off our 9 EMA. Price still remains above some of these moving averages. And our ADX momentum indicator is still telling us that we still have a fair amount of momentum here to the upside in this market. Taking a look at the weekly chart, Looking at the weekly, you can see that again, we're starting to see a little bit of flattening of our momentum indicator. Our positive DI has lost a little bit of momentum, a little bit of pressure here to the upside, and we're starting to see maybe some elevated selling pressure based on what I'm seeing here on a negative DI. Now we are right up against the 9 EMA. Okay, price still remains above our 20, above our 50, above our 100, but we have not been able to make a new high of late. If anything, we've continued to make newer lows in this market. All right. So taking a look at the daily chart, kind of zooming in on these candles here, you can see that the market has been in some sort of range. We see a lot in the way of overlapping price. I'm going to go ahead and so again, look at this, say fixed range volume profile, not for the 26th here, but I'm going to a little bit closer to the market here. We're going to go ahead and take this candle and move it all the way back to this candle here. I think that will establish the range that we're in. Maybe one more candle here. So again, you can see that the market is in some sort of range, in some sort of consolidation. So really nothing on the daily chart that indicates that we have any strong direction, right? You can see that our positive and our negative DI are indicating that price is in very much in a range. And we do see that our ADX, our momentum indicator, is falling. All right, indicating that there is no strong momentum in either case. Now, one thing I want to kind of call out here is we are starting to see in the silver market that price is managing to get below some of our moving averages here. It's still above our 100 and our 200, but price has managed to get below our 9. It also has managed to get below our 20, and it's working its way below our 50 moving average. Okay, so kind of giving us indication that there might be more downside pressure in this market. And if I go ahead and do a little bit of analysis here on where this market could go, again, I'm going to go ahead and take the highs and the low of this swing here, and I'm going to go ahead and take this here. And so it would not be out of the realm of possibility here that we go and maybe reach not only the 200, but as low as the 40 level, which would take us back to some of the support levels that we've been more accustomed to seeing in this market. So we're at an interesting level here. We're kind of consolidating in this range. I would say that this area here around 65 would be a relatively important level to hold if we are going to keep any sort of semblance of a bullish price action that we've been seeing on the higher time frame charts. Okay. So headed into the session, I would say similar to what we saw in the gold market, that the market seems to be in a neutral to kind of bearish sentiment here at the moment. Taking a look at the crude oil market. Looking at the crude oil market, again, we're going to go ahead and start off with the monthly chart. Looking at the monthly chart, we're going to kind of get a sense of what the market is trying to accomplish of late. And we can see of late that the market continues to show weakness. Okay. You can see that we continue to make lower lows and lower highs in this market, right? Market is sloping in a downward direction. We see that price is below a lot of our moving averages. Outside of our 9, we are below our 20, our 50, our 100 and 200 moving averages. So monthly chart is still showing some bearish structure at this point. And we can see that based on the DMI and the ADX indicator, that there's really not a whole lot of strength in either direction here at the moment. We have a lot of overlapping positive and negative DI here, indicating that there is not much momentum in either direction. Taking a look at the weekly chart, looking at the weekly, you can see that we've gotten a little bit of a spike here on the weekly to the buy side. We look at some of the candles here on the weekly chart, and you can see that price has indeed the 9 has managed to get above the 20 and now trying to hold above the 50 moving average, but we still have the 100 and 200 moving averages that are still above price. Okay. So while we are starting to see some signs that maybe the market is strengthening here a bit, we still have not managed to get above the 100 moving average, which is around 67.25, and then ultimately this $70 seems to be another level, the 200 moving average, that could potentially serve as some area of resistance. Now we are seeing our ADX kind of maybe pick up a little bit of momentum here to the upside, although it's still not quite strong, still reading somewhere in the 15 range. But once we, if price continues in this direction and makes its way up to maybe say 20 and maybe up to 25, then maybe there is a little bit more upside to this market. Now, if that's the case, then we have, as I mentioned, we have this level here, which is also aligned with this consolidation area we have here on the right, up to the 100 moving average, which is will take price up to this 67.17 level. And then ultimately, we could potentially get price up to this 70 level. So based on what I'm seeing, mainly on the weekly chart, starting to see some signs here of some bullish price action. Let's go ahead and take a look at the daily chart and take a look and see what the daily chart is offering us. So again, just looking at the DMI is really not showing any sort of strength in either direction. We see that the ADX, the momentum is falling, okay, above 25, which still indicates that maybe there's still a little bit of strength here to the upside, because that's the most recent break that we made here. We got the positive DI above our negative, and we got a little bit of separation here, but now it's kind of consolidating here a bit. So we'll have to see over the course of the week whether this kind of ticks up and begins to slope higher, as well as the positive. If it does indeed maybe tick up higher, that could give us some indication that the market could return in and give us maybe more of an indication that the market is indeed going to potentially head higher. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at the volume profile for the past week here. Just kind of examine from Friday to the Friday here and see where we are with respect to price. And again, you can see that price is well within the value range that was established in last week's trading. And you see that we have a developing bearish candle. Okay, we had an open that was inside. We kind of retested the highs here, right, with the open of this candle. And now we have price kind of trading into a little bit of this buying wick here. So we see that price is below our 9 EMA, between our 20, okay, and above some of these other moving averages below us, right, above the, what was this? This is the 200, this is the 100, and looks like this is the 50. So we have kind of a little bit of a mixed bag here with respect to with direction. So when we have some doubts, the best course of action in a case like this is to communicate that the market is in some sort of range. And again, we would have to wait to see if price does manage to break some of these levels that we've established. But otherwise, I would say headed into the week that I would probably remain somewhat neutral on the crude oil market. Taking a look at the first equity market, and that is the NASDAQ. Okay, so we can take a look at the NASDAQ. We'll go ahead and remove some of our drawings here. We'll go ahead and start off with the monthly chart here and take a look and see what the monthly chart is telling us. So we still see that we have our positive DI still above our negative DI, but the positive DI is looking to lacks a little bit of buying pressure. And we are starting to see a little bit in the way of selling pressure, maybe beginning to build here. As a result, our ADX, while above 25, which would be considered strong, is maybe losing a little bit of momentum. All right, taking a look at the weekly chart. Looking at the weekly chart, again, you can see more of the strengthening of the bearish side, right? We have our bearish negative DI above our positive, indicating that there is maybe some selling pressure that's maybe building in this market. And our ADX, our momentum indicator, while below our level of 25, is starting to maybe start to slope in a direction that would indicate that maybe there is some momentum behind the bearish price action that we're beginning to see on this market. Taking a look at the daily chart. Looking at the daily chart, again, you can start to, if we're just looking at these more recent candles, we're starting to make lower lows and lower highs in this market, right? So we made a lower low followed by a lower high. Now the question is, can we make a lower low to continue the pattern that we've started to establish in this market? Looking at the DMI indicator, you can see that the DMI indicator is telling us that we are in a relatively strong momentum move here to the downside because of the fact that we have our negative DI above our positive. So it indicates to us that there is a fair amount of pressure here to the downside in this market. Okay, so I would say that headed into into the week here, just take one last peek, just one more peek here at the fixed range volume profile before I commit to this. But let's take a look here all the way to the close of the week here. So you can see that price did manage to close below the area of value, right? Value range from last week, and looks like we have opened up with a somewhat of a bullish candle. Okay, so we won't know exactly how this candle is going to close here for a good day here, but if we do manage to close above, let's say 24, say 880, well, we could have it has the potential of maybe rotating back to some of these highs. If it cannot get above this 2880, 880, then maybe there is more downside in this market. Okay, maybe we will come and potentially revisit some of these levels. Okay, so right now, I would say headed into the week, I cannot deny that we are in some sort of beginning to see some signs here of a bearish structure. Right, we are in bearish structure. We've made some lower lows and lower highs of late. We see that price is below our 9, below our 20, below our 50, below our 100. And the only thing that's really kind of keeping us above water here is the 200 moving average, which is falling around this 24,000, let's call it 110 level. So as long as price remains above, well, then that is kind of giving us hope that maybe there's a potential that we could reverse. Certainly, this 24,110 level would be a logical location for price to potentially reverse. Okay. So, again, headed into the session, given what I'm seeing here, I would say that headed into the session that we need to continue to look for opportunities, I would say to the bearish side until we start to see maybe the market kind of begin to develop maybe more of structure that would indicate more upside opportunity. Okay. Certainly we need to get above 24,440. That would be the first kind of indication that maybe the market is looking to head higher. I am seeing that maybe we do have a little bit of a demand zone down below here at around the, say, the 24,650 level. Okay. Maybe as low as 24,300. But we obviously have to hold this level in order to begin to maybe change our view on this market, right? So right now, I would say headed into the week that the market does appear to be a bit on the bearish side, and that we need to continue to look for opportunities uh, in the bearish direction. Okay, so headed into the week for Nasdaq, I would say that I'm a bit on the bearish side. Okay, taking a look at the ES. All right, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the ES. We're going to go ahead and start off with the monthly chart. Looking at the monthly chart, we're going to go ahead and turn off our drawings here. Okay, so we'll turn off the drawings. So you're starting to see more participation on both sides of the market here. We have wicks on both ends of these candles here, right? Wicks on the sell side, wicks on the buy side. Price is above our 9, above our 20. And we're starting to see that maybe we are getting the buying pressure is beginning to collapse here, right? We're not seeing the same amount of maybe a little bit of a divergence as with respect to price, right? Price is making a new high, but price has not made, sorry, the positive DI has not made a new high here. Okay, right? So it's a little bit of divergence here, right? So we're seeing a little bit of divergence, right? The positive DI is telling us that the market seems to be losing a little bit of momentum to the upside, while price has managed to make a higher high. That we do see a little bit of divergence here on the DMI when it comes to the positive DI. Now, momentum indicator, we're starting to see a sloping indicator, but the slope is much more aligned with in the negative direction. While we are not above our 25, which would indicate a strong trend, we're starting to see some signs on the negative DI that maybe the market is maybe picking up some momentum to the downside in this market. Taking a look at the weekly chart. Looking at the weekly chart, again, there's that divergence that we were speaking of here. Okay, so you can see that our positive DI is losing a little bit of buying pressure, right? Even though we did manage to make a higher high and potentially a higher low, we did not do the same with our positive DI. And moreover, our ADX seems to be falling. Momentum in any direction here at this point seems to be waning. Okay. So what does the market do? Well, in a situation like that, it ranges, right? If there's no momentum, if there's no momentum in either direction, the market ranges, and that's kind of what we've been in for the past, I would say, I want to say a couple of weeks, maybe as late as early November here. Looking at the weekly chart from November all the way till now, we've been in a market that's been in somewhat of a range. Taking a look at the daily chart. Looking at the daily, again, you can see more of the same. You can see that the momentum to the upside seems to be picking up a little bit of momentum. You can see that our ADX indicator is well above here at the 30, a reading of 32. We're seeing some separation between our negative DI and our positive DI, which indicates that there is a fair amount of momentum to the downside in this market. Looking at our moving averages, you can see that price is below our 9, below our 20, below our 50. We managed to hold, at least for now, the 100 moving average. We did that one time and we're back at this level again. The question now is, do we still have participants that are able to take the market higher? Do we have interest here at these levels from the buyers? We do have our 200 moving average here down at 65.80. If we are unable to hold the 100 moving average right around this 67, let's say 67.98, or just call it 6,800. If we're not able to hold 6,800, then it stands to reason that we'll come back and maybe revisit 6,600 or 65.75. Okay. So one last thing I want to take a look at here is the fixed range volume profile. We're just going to compare timelines here, Friday to Friday here. So starting with Friday into Friday, you can see that the market price has managed to close below, okay, close below and reach our 100 moving average here, okay. This is, I think, 100 moving average, or maybe might even be our, yeah, this appears to be the 100 or let's confirm that. Let's see, moving averages here. I think it might be our 50 moving average number 2. So moving average number 2 is red. Okay, so that's our 50. So prices are below our 50 and kind of hovering around our 100 moving average. We got a little bit of reaction away from that, and now we have an inside bullish candle developing here. So that would indicate that maybe we could remain in this range from between 6,800 to 6,900. That could be the range that we maybe head into the week on. Okay. If we do get some volume above, say, 6,900, that could lead to maybe a swing back to the highs here and then maybe another retest of 7,000. If we break below 6,800, well, then I think that opens the door for maybe price to come back down to 6,600. Okay. So similar to the NASDAQ, I'm going to go with more of maybe a neutral to bearish kind of rating here in the ES. I'm seeing some price action that would indicate that maybe there is a little bit of structure that's beginning to develop here to the downside, and the DMI seems to be in alignment with the general view that maybe there is some bearish pressure in this market. Okay, let's go ahead now and take a look at the last market before we summarize kind of our view across all the markets. Let's go ahead and start off with the monthly chart. We'll take a look at the monthly chart and see what the monthly chart is telling us. Well, the Dow seems to be the strongest of the markets. Okay, looking at this, you can see that our negative DI is falling. We have a relatively strong, I guess, momentum, right? ADX is giving us a reading of around 20, and we have our positive DI is also sloping to the upside. So based on the monthly chart, the market looks quite bullish. Taking a look at the weekly chart, still seeing that we have price above our 9, above our 20 above our 50, above our 100, above our 200. We're seeing a little bit more in the way of overlapping price. Okay, here, let's see if I can move some of my drawings here. Okay, so we see that we are seeing a little bit more in the way of overlapping price. You see that our ADX indicator is sloping to the upside. Our positive indicator is relatively flat, and also as well as our negative indicator. So it seems like we still have some momentum in this market. Would like to see maybe this positive DI to kind of begin to kind of slope in the same direction as our ADX, but it does feel like this market, the Dow in particular, seems to be a bit stronger than either the ES or the Nasdaq at this point. Taking a look at the daily chart. Daily chart, seeing a little bit more in the way of range here at this point. I'm seeing a lot more in the way of overlapping price. Price still remains above our 50, above our 20, and just a shade below our 9 moving average. If I take a look at my fixed range volume profile here and see where price is in relation to last week's price action. So we'll just go ahead and hover this candle over here. So go ahead and do this here. We'll go from this candle all the way to this candle here. So you can see that we are below value from yesterday. Now, what's different is from maybe some of the other equities is that we are developing a bullish candle here, all right, around this candle of indecision here. So assuming that this candle closes, this could lead to maybe a 3-bar reversal pattern, which could cause us to maybe revisit some of these highs here at 50,500. Okay. So let's see. So price is inside value, right? This visible range volume profile above the 200, above, now this is above the 100, above the 200. Okay. And we have price above the 20. So a fair amount of indication that maybe there is a little bit more upside opportunity in this market. I'm going to go ahead and draw in an area here. I think that's going to be relatively important to hold if we are indeed thinking the market is a bit more bullish than bearish, and that is this level here. Okay, so I'd like to see price remain above 49,000. Okay, to really continue to maybe support the view that the market is going to continue higher. Okay, we had a relatively strong sell-off here on Thursday, had a neutral day on Friday, and now we have a developing bullish candle here. We'll have to wait and see if over the course of the next few days, if the market is able to restore maybe this bullish price action that we've been seeing of late here in the Dow and close above some of these highs here at 50,000, let's say 50,598 or 51,000 would be kind of the level that I would be looking at here. Okay. As long as price remains below, say 50,000. Okay, this is probably going to be my line in the sand here between bearish and bullish here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and draw this line at 50,000. If price is below our 50,000, then I would say that I'm a bit more bearish. If price is above our 50,000 level, then I would say that maybe the market has some more upside to this price has more upside. Okay. So let's go ahead and so I'm going to go with a more bullish, neutral to bullish kind of rating here in the market. I do need to see price continue to hold above 49,000, but if price does hold above 49,000, then I would say that there's a reasonable chance that we could see market maybe continuing to rally here a bit. Not seeing all that much in the way of momentum in either direction here. We do see our negative DI above our positive, so that is giving us some indication on that there is a little bit of selling pressure, but it's flattened since, and our momentum indicator is not following that direction here of late. Okay, so let's go ahead and take one final peek here on these markets. So again, we'll probably go with continue to go with this neutral to bearish rating on the gold. Okay, as we head into the week, silver similar, neutral to bearish on the silver. Crude oil neutral, neutral. I'm just going to keep it neutral. Neutral on the crude oil market, and then across the equity markets, starting with the Nasdaq, I'm going to go with a bearish to neutral rating on the NAS. Okay. Again, I think at this level here around 24,650 is going to be a relatively important a level to hold here on the NASDAQ. Okay. Otherwise, there's probably more downside opportunities in this market. ES similar. Okay. This level here around see, this is I think the 100 EMA here around 6,800. As long as price remains above 6,800, I would say that maybe there is some more upside in this market. And then ultimately the Dow, which I think is probably the strongest of the three equity markets here, needs to remain above this 49,000 level in order for us to continue maybe to support this, view that the market is going to continue higher. Okay. So with that, guys, we're going to go ahead and close off this session as we close most sessions, and that is trade well, trade safe, trade like a pro, be a market trader.